Fugitives belonged to all social classes of the empire. The relevant documents concern servants, deportees, and workers, as well as soldiers and low and high-ranking officials, although the runaways of the latter group are known only from Haddon's letters to the god Asser. The letters reveal a variety of reasons underlying their decision to flee. Four broad categories of fugitives can be determined: criminals like thieves, robbers, and smugglers, as well as more dangerous criminals accused of the most serious crimes, including murder. Within this group, there are also the lowest ranking officials: Nabu Sumu Edina, an inspector of the Nabu temple in Kalu, sent the king a detailed list of 10 village managers, Rab Alani, quoting their names and places of origin, who, instead of coming for the review, had run away. Unfortunately, the end of the letter, which might explain the exact reason for their escape, is broken away. Since, however, according to the letters, the primary responsibility of the village managers was to collect taxes, it is reasonable to assume that the fugitives simply committed some sort of fraud. From this letter, it is clear that the administration might commit negligence, fraud, or even insubordination. Overexploited people, such as those who fled because of their bad living conditions and or unbearable obligations to the state. Two letters from the reign of Sargon II will show the burdens of life of the subjugated people of the expanding empire. The first concerns the situation after the conquest of Carchemish, when the inhabitants of the city start to complain about too heavy Iliku duties. According to an official reporting to the king, they notoriously crossed the Euphrates and settled in the province of Arpad. It is not known whether the local authorities successfully tackled the problem. Nabu Ramani, the governor of Parsua, explains to Sargon why, after being settled in Parsua, deportees from Tabal who had come in a caravan from Karsarukan ran away to Mania. In Parsua they were received that in Parsu they were to receive all necessary means of support, but a large-scale embezzlement by a Sakorbuti forced them to flee to Mania. Having learnt about the whole situation, Nabu Ramani succeeded in capturing some of them and provided the deportees with a livelihood. Additionally, the letter deserves particular attention because the governor feels obligated to excuse himself for his negligence. He was in media at the time and did not know about the embezzlement and the escapes. Undoubtedly, he was afraid of being blamed for indolence, which could consequently result in his dismissal by the king. This letter attests to a specific approach to the fugitive who ran away because of economic reasons. We can suppose that there was some understanding for those people and the reason why they fled. The authorities aimed to prevent the situation occurring again, and therefore provided securely their basic needs instead of meting out punishments. Deserters are well documented in the sources. It should be noted that the underlying reason for desertion are often similar to those of civilians, so that they may be included in the groups mentioned. As it happens everywhere and regardless of time, soldiers of the Assyrian army committed the same criminal offenses as civilians. For example, the already mentioned well-known case of the murder of the mayor of Materna. The burden of military service or shortages of food supply may too have contributed to desertion, but these are only conjectures, as the sources do not convey directly any such reasons for it. Two factors probably made desertion easier. First, the fact that some troops served in the provinces along the border of the empire with the enemy countries, which were well disposed towards deserters. Second, cavalry units were very mobile, and they were able to run away quickly and to cover long distances before the discovery of their desertion. Fugitives of Assyria, like runaways from other countries, were people of different social backgrounds. Some were specialists in a given trade and therefore could hope to obtain relatively good living conditions. A shortage of craftsmen needed for the hope to obtain relatively good the shortage of craftsmen needed for the huge building enterprises of the Assyrian kings created a favorable environment for a highly qualified labor force. Several letters refer to desertions of enemy soldiers. Desertions could result from the military situation when the balance was tipping in favor of Assyria. Two letters from the time of Tiglath-Pileser III concern the desertions from Damascus just before the annexation of the city in 732 BCE. The former pertains to a commander of 50 Rab-Ans who fled to Assyria, while the latter reports on mercenaries who changed sides. In all likelihood, they were later incorporated into the Assyrian army as members of the auxiliary units. Some cavalry deserters also brought their mounts for the Assyrian army. In a letter of Samas Takalak to Sargon, it is stated that the prefect of the recruitment officers, Saknasunu Sa Masurkinsani, was not only responsible for recruiting of soldiers and horses, but he also dealt with the matters concerning deserters. Interestingly, if the enemy soldier hesitated to desert, the Assyrians encouraged him to change side. One way to do it was to dispatch a special messenger with a token, iterate, which signaled the readiness of the Assyrian Empire to accept them. Thus, it seems that not only did Assyrians give shelter to fugitives, but they also actively tried to acquire them. It is obvious that an increasing number of runaways from a given country revealed that the internal political situation in that country was deteriorating. How useful such pieces of information were for the Assyrian kings and how they could influence his decision for waging war is attested. In this letter, Bel-Usazib, a Babylonian astrologer from the inner circle of scholars, advises Assur-Haddon on the impending Assyrian invasion of the Manian territory. Apart from his astrological observations, Bel-Usazib notices that deserters outnumbered fighting men among the enemy. Therein lies your advantage. At the entry of the whole army, let patrols make sorties, capture their men in the open country, and question them. If the Indarians are keeping away from them, the army can invade and throw itself against the cities. Both fugitive soldiers and representatives of the foreign administration were invaluable informers for Assyrians. It seems that the Assyrians followed specific procedures concerning deserters. Sent to the king from the Manian frontier, a message by Assur-Usalim describes the steps taken by the Assyrians stationed in the forts along the border in regard to the fugitives coming there from Media, and Abuskia. According to the king's instructions, each new fugitive should be handed over to a messenger of Assur-Usalim, who would bring him to the crown prince. If the fugitive had some important information, it is Assur-Usalim's duty to make a detailed report and to deliver the sealed letter immediately to the king by the cohort commander of the crown prince. Such reports undoubtedly contain intelligence data about the movements of an enemy army or the political situation of a hostile country, and even about some economic matters. Referring to a certain fugitive from Gubla named Beryl, who reports to Assur-Ila'i, a military official of Tiglath-Pileser III, on the prince of Barley in the town of Uri. The most wanted runaways were, of course, the members of the foreign elite, courtiers who were in attendance of a ruler. Since the court was the center of government, they possessed invaluable knowledge about sensitive state secrets. In addition, they could be used as bargaining cards in the political game. Nevertheless, letters do not usually refer to defections of the higher-ranking officials and members of royal families. Only one letter concerns the Arartian governor who fled to Assyria during the apogee of the Assyria-Arartian conflict. It is quite exceptional because the defector was rewarded with one of the highest positions in the Assyrian army, and Sargon promptly appointed him as a Tertanu.